Folks, we need more female entrepreneurs, females in the IP space, and we have a fantastic one today. In fact, I saw a LinkedIn post from Elizabeth tagging Katie, and it was just thanking her. And I said, "Oh yeah, this is normal Katie action, adding value to people." And I said to Katie, we should interview her. So I'm going to let Katie tell the story about how you all met, and then we'll talk about Elizabeth and Pathformance and this crazy unique IP that she has. So Katie, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Kary. So Elizabeth Johnson is here with us, and she is the CEO of Pathformance. And we met actually at the Inc. 5000 conference in Phoenix, maybe 2 or 3 years ago now. And we were just in line at an event, I think maybe having lunch or something. And we got talking, and she was telling me about all of these really innovative things she was doing at her company. And then we just started talking on the topic of IP. And then we just followed up after the conference, and it just took off from there. And what's funny is that she lives in Naples, Florida, and that's where my family.
Oh, wow.
So, we are able to meet up when I'm down there. And so it's been great to work together, but to also have a great friendship that's developed as well.
That's fantastic. Elizabeth, you're crushing it on LinkedIn. Um, I can just see your engagement is very high, and you definitely have IP. Like, before meeting Katie, did you think you had IP?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, I always reflect on that day. Yes, we were in line and you're in a room with entrepreneurs. So conversations tend to flow a little bit freer. You're talking to people like, what do you do? What do you do? Because it's an event where everybody's, doing something different,
Sure.
not like a standard industry one where you know everybody and what they're doing. So, having, when Katie mentioned, IP and everything, I was like, wow, it never crossed my mind because, I'm small at the time, bootstrapped, we're just, thinking about growth and maximizing our efficiencies and things like that, and then coming across IP. So she shared some insights of like, no, it can be at any time. You should be start thinking about it sooner. So
Yeah.
that was really exciting to have that in the back of my mind of okay, let's have this conversation. And as Katie mentioned, not only a dialogue, a friendship, and a partnership stem from that. Yeah.
That's cool. So Katie, I'm curious. I know you do this thing called a harvest, which might sound weird to people. At the moment we start talking about intangible assets, some people's eyes glaze over. But just like Elizabeth started pre-show talking about reading the companies, we'll talk about that in a moment, Elizabeth. Kind of those ahas. But did you have a harvest session with her, Katie, or did she just come already saying, "Hey, this part of my business needs protection," or how did that all go?
Yeah, that's a good question. So a lot of times what I like to do is kind of have entrepreneurs show me what they're working on, if maybe they have a prototype, right? Or they can walk me through their software or their website, because that helps us hone in and identify what is potentially protectable with IP there. So that's what we kind of did here, where she showed me some of her software and how it worked and demoed a lot of it. And that's what we were able to mine some assets from.
Oh, that's cool. How did that feel, Elizabeth, as you were, first of all, tell us what Pathformance does. How's that?
Yeah, and I'll expand a little bit on what Katie said too. Is she really helped guide us through this process and understand where kind of our edge of the competitors are, right, and what differentiates us. And from that, it's kind of like unpacked all this opportunity that we had. So Pathformance started a couple years ago, and what we focus on is measuring the impact of advertisers' dollars. And we really help them understand, where the dollars are going and how effective they are, where you should reinvest, and then measure the impact. We use point of sale retailer point of sale data for that. So we're really able to get, with CPG brands down to the store item, what's working, what's not, how did you compete against your competitors. And with that, and what Katie and Caldwell helped us with is we developed unique methodologies and algorithms and things like that we put into our solutions and tools for measuring the impact of marketing performance.
How do you even get into something like that? Are you just a shopper that I got some daughters and my wife, they like to shop, but I mean, were you just born shopper and you wanted to see the performance, or how did this all work?
Yeah, great question. A couple of things. One, started my career working with brands and retailers, marketing, sales. So it was called like category management, where we manage all the items on the shelf. So really, once you're kind of in that world and understanding, you can never go grocery shopping the same way again, because like, oh, why is that on that shelf and why is that there? And look at this end cap. But truly, back in the day, was working with analytics and everything, and a lot of data was old. You're making decisions on 4-week-old, industry data, and then by the time you met with your buyer at a retailer, it's like 6 weeks old, and you're making decisions, and that landscape already has passed, and there's a new vision going on. So, really wanted to understand how we can help companies, with more visibility in where the marketing dollars are spent and how we can help them. So it's identifying a gap in the industry, and kind of went from there on a mission of like, how do we have visibility, transparency, and help brands, be more effective. And, that really ultimately leads to happy shoppers that are able to find products on the shelf, what was promoted to them, and, drives traffic to retailers. So it's, a really great scenario when it works how it should.
So Katie, as you were sitting and doing this mining and seeing these algorithms, was there anything abnormal about Elizabeth's company kind of that made it unique? Did you see things right away, or did it take a little bit of time? What do you think?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'd say for most companies, almost all companies, there's something unique there. And it's kind of figuring out what is it, because a lot of times too, when you're ingrained in the technology and in the business every day, you don't think that these small changes are significant, and you think, oh, this is nothing important, or everybody's doing this. But once you can really see and understand what differences and what impact those small changes are making, that leads to some of the greatest opportunities for IP protection. For example, Amazon in the 90s, they patented their one-click shopping button on their website that allowed you to put everything in the cart and just click and buy it. And that was one of the most valuable patents that ever has existed.
Wow.
It's simple technology, right? You wouldn't really think, oh, that's something protectable. But at the time, nobody else was doing it. E-commerce was just commencing. And so it's those small little things that lead to the greatest opportunity for protection.
Elizabeth, what did it do when Caldwell sat down with you and maybe first identified it, and then we kind of have this process in the book: visualize, organize, and then digitize, so there's all kinds of steps. But like, once you realized you had something besides maybe economic value, what did it do to you personally as an entrepreneur?
No, it was, really exciting to, hear the news after, working together and everything. It was really exciting. And, again, never thinking at our stage that we would be investing in an IP at this moment. Right. And so it was fantastic. It really, personally, it's like, okay, we created something as our team developed. It's not just me, it's the smart people in my company. I can't take credit for all. It's everyone coming together and making this amazing solution in the industry. But really, confidence, right? You're able to protect your hard work, your ideas. It gives you that credibility when you're talking to clients and investors, if you will, right? Not that we needed it, but it shows that we're not just a company where we're focusing on differentiation and innovation, right? So it was a really, really proud moment for our company. So
wow,
really proud of that fact.
And Katie, what process are they in right now? Did they get the patent? Is it being refined currently?
No, their patent is allowed. Yeah, so
No
it's going
way.
to go next month into an actual issued patent. And, I just expand upon what Elizabeth said too, is that once she really showed me what she was doing, it really is eye-opening, because it's not just marketing analytics. They have this great technology, and so they're really a tech company that's working in this e-commerce space, right? And I think that's what's so important about the patent too, is because they've really positioned themselves as this innovative technology company.
That's fantastic. I love it. And so you did get this award as well that is called the Trailblazer Tech. That's pretty cool to be recognized externally as well for your innovation. So again, like, I think Katie and I hang out with this guy named Dan Sullivan of Strategic Coach. He says that the number one thing an entrepreneur needs to protect is their confidence. And I see you kind of stacking, whether it's Inc. 5000, top 1000, like IP, you're just stacking your confidence. Do you think that makes you more attractive to clients, Elizabeth? Do you think the ROI is worth that type of work? What would you say to somebody who might be a few steps behind you?
Yeah, absolutely. It is a little bit of a process, right? It's, for me, the first couple of years, just nose to the grindstone, just working, head down, just focusing on our company, our employee team, our clients, right? And, before it, as you're coming up for air, these things are kind of happening around you, right? You're doing great work. So, these are, some of the awards are, peer recommended, client recommended, team recommended, that, I didn't even know until, you get them and you're like, wow, that's amazing, right?
Wow.
And really, for me, my personality, I'm a huge mentor. I love helping other, people succeed. I'm happy to sit down. I'll help anybody, in their journey. So just having, those, absolutely, super proud of them. But, again, it's not just me, it's the team around me that, helps us succeed. But yeah, it definitely is, a great career, thing to have. But yeah, it's exciting. And like you said, it's neat to see the stacking of it, right? Like, and I'm super excited to add IP and patent behind that again.
Yeah.
Like, never would have envisioned that.
Well, I'm only a few months, maybe a year ahead of you, but like, yeah, when you can put on your bio /inventor,
Yeah.
and when people can search on Google and find your patent, that's pretty slick. So, Katie, what made Elizabeth and her team, I'm gonna assume, don't tell me if this isn't true, but what made them a good client? What made them, because I'm sure, just like with publishing, we have really good clients that fit a certain personality just because of the way that they're wired, the mindset, the way they think. What about Elizabeth not only made her a client, but it sounds like you both have a good friendship too. And so what are some of those traits?
Yeah, I think probably what's most recognizable is we met at the Inc. conference, and the Inc. conference really kind of celebrates entrepreneurs who are moving fast. Right?
Sure.
And, Elizabeth has been on the Inc. 5000 list for, I think, 3 or 4 years in a row, which is an amazing feat. Most companies, get on there 1 year, but people don't realize too, to get on it for repeated numbers of years, your growth has to be so explosive to continue to kind of, excel at so much percentage each year from your year before. So I think we're both really kind of growth focused and growth minded. And so that's some of the most exciting types of clients to work with, because they have this vision of where they want to go. They know where they want to go. And so, I play a very small role in kind of educating them on how can we use IP to help you with that growth and achieve those business objectives. So, I think it's been a great relationship between the two of us because we have a lot of commonalities about entrepreneurship and work, and just really very in tune to our businesses and where we want to go with them too.
It makes sense. So Elizabeth, I think you held up your book. So I don't think we shipped you one. So you got one somehow. Katie gave you one.
So when Katie and I met a couple weeks ago, she mentioned she had a book coming out. So of course, I'm an avid reader. I read all the time. And she's like, I'll send you a copy. I'm like, I can't wait. So of course, I grabbed it, and diving into it just takes it to a whole nother level. So I'm super excited of like all the strategies in here. I think there's like 30 plus or something like that. So I'm really excited to take it, continue to work on our IP portfolio, right? And what really, flipping through it quick, I saw some of the chapters, and what really not surprised me, but really was like, oh, that's right. If you think about it, like EOS is a IP company, and we just implemented EOS this year. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting, and that makes sense, right? Because they have a process and a design, and their whole thing. So Lego, CrossFit. So you don't, in my mind, it's like, oh, it has to be technology or a big company like Apple or Microsoft. Those are the known ones. But seeing companies like an exercise, CrossFit, or a franchise, or EOS, I'm like, so it really opened my mind. And then some of the ideas in here to expand on it, we hadn't even thought about. So really, Katie, you said you play a small role in it. I really don't think so. And I think, that's why we're talking here today. Like, other entrepreneurs should be hearing about this and go on that journey and be like, wow, I do have something. And, even as they might not, it gets them on the path to get to something, right? So, and really, it just really is a really, I think, an important part of any business's journey.
I love that. Yeah, it is mind-blowing once you kind of reference Matrix, but it's like once you're unplugged from the Matrix, you're like, whoa, everything is IP. I see it every day. I'm teaching Katie a college class on IP in our book, and one of the questions that came up, and maybe Elizabeth, you can say what your thoughts are from a founder, and Katie, maybe you can share from the lawyer. But the students, think about it. These young students are 18, 19 years old. And a couple things. One is I think that their generation is growing up a lot more with this, just like taking what's out there. Like, oh, look at this thing. I'm going to take it. Look at this video. I'm going to take it. Like, so at first they're like, whoa, there is a boundary. Like, because they first started fighting me on that. And I said, well, look at Kylie Jenner, look at Taylor Swift, look at people in your generation who know. And it's more of a mindset. It's not a age. So I think we're cool there. But Katie, I think one question that they keep saying is IP potential value, or is it truly value? Like, for example, the Nike swoosh, is that value right then, or did they capture it, then have to build the brand, then it's valuable? And maybe back to Elizabeth, like, was the algorithm valuable when she discovered it or applied it? Because I know in the book, Katie, you talk about there is a legit, you get a patent, whether you created the thing or not, it has value right then and there. So that's hard for people. It's really hard for people to realize at what point does the IP that's protected have value, in its ideation phase or implementation or both. What do you both think about that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I'd say, there's inherent value just in the ideation phase, just in that creation kind of phase itself. And we see a lot of that, for example, in what we call companies know-how, right? When a company has kind of a unique process or idea, And they maybe haven't protected it with IP, but a lot of times that kind of know-how gets licensed along with other intangible assets. So that alone has a lot of value, but also once you kind of go out and protect it and then it's out there, the value almost always then just increases even more. And so it's always a moving target because it's an intangible asset. So it's hard to assign a value without doing a formal valuation, but it's something where there's always value, but there's ways to make it more valuable by creating more liability for others through what you created there.
So value, but you can increase the value. Okay.
Yeah.
And then that's cool. And then I don't know, Elizabeth, would you call yourself a founder as well? You're the founder of the company?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what kind of advice would you give to people listening to this that maybe are thinking, I don't really have much, or maybe in 5 or 10 years, what would you tell them like at the beginning of the phase as well?
Mm-hmm. I would say, consider it part of your beginning journey and incorporate it in the, mindset tool set that you're working with. Looking back, I would have been like, oh, how would I have done things differently? Probably not a lot. You don't want to be thinking like, how do I create something so specific that I can patent it, right? It's more of the ideation and everything. But what I learned in this process is to incorporate it as a growth strategy and not, potentially like a legal necessity, like people might think about it, right? Having this whole world open up is like, okay, that's so interesting. And then it is kind of like you think about it and you expand on it. It's like, okay, what did we already build? And we're already thinking, okay, how do we add to this, expand on it, right? So it really, just helps the innovation spurring of like, okay, wow, we're onto something. Let's keep going. Let's keep developing. So it's a really cool process, and it's never, too late, too early. My mind is always like the companies with huge R&D budgets, and that's definitely not the case. And what's unique about Katie and her company and everything, when you're first hearing about it, it seems like a complex topic, and Katie brings the legal knowledge as well as entrepreneurship to it. So that's just like, oh, cool, like we're talking the same language, which just made it fun, right? It's like, what can we do? And her team is fantastic, and they just really, like I said, got to know us and understand that where we can have differentiation in the marketplace.
Wow. Okay. Katie, anything, in the Elizabeth topic it's Pathformance. Anything about the company or Elizabeth that's would be helpful for the crowd in terms of what they can apply in their own journey?
No, I think that's a great question. I'd say, I think Elizabeth really has hit the nail on the head today about kind of how at different stages of growth of your company, there's different challenges and different opportunities.
Yeah.
And it's always about, a balance of those things, but also thinking about what it is that really makes you different than others. And I think that's what was so noticeable when we started working together was Elizabeth knew who other, companies similar to Pathformance were, but she also knew here's how we're different. Here's kind of this unique edge we bring to it, right? This is kind of how we, think about things for our clients. And I think that's where, as an entrepreneur, you can really differentiate yourself from your competitors too, because everybody has some unique application of technology or some unique system or methodology. And it's kind of how you position that in your company that can really make you stand out from others too.
That's cool. Elizabeth, that's actually one of our chapters later on in the book is this competitor, collaborator, client that you kind of keep track of. And it sounds like you did, like she's complimenting you. You did your homework. You kind of knew what the other ones out there are. So this says maximize, identify potential IP competitors, clients, and collaborators. Do you do that intentional, or just you're just kind of like a student of other companies?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both, right? You need to be aware of what's going on in the industry, people that have existed, up and
Mm,
comers, things like
yeah.
that. But really, we're in our lane now, right? Where we have what we're doing and it's ours, and really going forward with that and expanding on it, right? So you're kind of, you don't want blinders on, but you don't want to spend too much time worrying about what else is doing, but just keeping up on industry and what people are doing. And to your point, sometimes competitors can be collaborators, right? Like it's like, oh,
Mm,
coming together makes sense because of what you're doing and what you're doing too. So you
yeah.
never want to discount that as well. So just really, keeping your eyes and ears open is what I like to do.
Well, that's good. That's good.
And I just say too, I think that's why too, Elizabeth and I both really enjoyed conferences like the Inc. conference,
Mm,
because you're meeting so many other entrepreneurs who are from tons of different areas of
yeah.
industry. And you can really learn so much at that conference, because there's always great speakers and great topics and conversations, and learn about, okay, what is a challenge for you in your business? How did you resolve it? Or
Mm,
what's, really hot topics in entrepreneurship, or what are areas entrepreneurs are struggling with? And so it really gives a lot of common knowledge and ground that you can really learn so much from other entrepreneurs too.
I like that.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think that's the journey today. The conversation is, even by listening to Elizabeth, hopefully the listeners can say, wow, I can see a little angle, a little tip that I need to start applying. Elizabeth, as we close today, pathformance.com, what would be the ideal client? So someone might know somebody, or someone might be listening, and they might say, I'm really curious about how we can hire Elizabeth and her IP can help us. So who is your client if they're listening?
Yeah, thank you. For us, it's really advertisers, right? If you're promoting, you're in store, you're able to be sold to a shopper consumer,
Yeah,
is, who we're trying to help measure and understand the impact of all their advertising, right? So it's kind
that's
of,
cool.
yeah, it is cool. And, we're really proud you had our website up, but, we're a small team, right?
Mm.
Small and very, driven in everything. And I think to date, we updated our website, but we've measured so far, 25 billion in media impressions and measured
Gee.
240 million in media spend, right? And we're just getting started, right? So
Mm.
really, really proud of that fact, and proud of our team that manages all of our amazing clients and partners that we're working with today. So, we're truly blessed. We have amazing customers and team
Yeah.
members.
Well, Katie, thanks for bringing Elizabeth on. Anything you want to close with regarding her journey? Would you encourage her to keep going? Do I
Oh,
do I
absolutely.
sense a patent family coming here, maybe? Or
Right. I just think too, like Elizabeth said, she's just getting started.
Mm,
And I am very excited to see what this next year brings for her and her team, and just into the future too, because they have so much great technology and so many unique methodologies that it's just the tip of the iceberg
mm.
scratching right now.
Oh, that's good. And here's my takeaway. My takeaway is that always be telling stories and posting content, because we're here because Elizabeth and Katie met, but they didn't keep that to themselves. You turned it into content. And so a lot of times people are like, well, how do I find, the ability to get on a podcast, or how do I, you post, and I think what you both did is really smart. I caught it immediately. I'm like, here's a cool story. So keep posting, Elizabeth.
Perfect. And appreciate you capturing that, right? And, Katie and I talked about that post, and I was just like, we have to share this. This is fantastic.
Yeah. how it
and,
all
you know,
happened.
yeah, how it all happened. So love that. So yeah, thank you for having me on, and thank you for your knowledge in the industry and the book.
I'm
And Katie,
learning.
thank you and your team for helping us, and really appreciate the time today.
Perfect. Check out pathformance.com, everybody, and we'll see you on the next show.